Yo, he puts that cake down on the table. Why is it the dude who outed me? This is now.
I'm your boy Mush King. You already know I got a story to tell.
Hey, what it is, friends, and welcome back to an all new episode of A Story to Tell. I am your host, Mush King, and welcome back to the show. So today, guys, one, I want to thank everybody else who checked out the last video. I'm trying to be consistent, but I am working behind the scenes, like trying to rebuild the network. So, if you want to hear a little bit more about that, go ahead and check out like Behind the Brand. I think that's what it's called, but it's me just documenting, building the network and whatnot. So let's have a couple things going on with that. But I wanted to come back to you guys so I can give you a new video, a new perspective, and my favorite thing, a story to tell. So today, I really want to talk about, and this is something that people who know me know that I've talked about this, but it's something that I haven't really talked about publicly. And I want to talk about when I was outed. Now, anyone who knows me knows I hate exposure culture. And so, just to randomly get off topic, this is why I like, this whole thing with Diddy. Like, yes, if there's victims, they should definitely get justice. But it gets to a point where now this is starting to be like, let's expose him for everything we did, like come out and do that. And so, which brings me back to my point. I have a huge issue with that because I was involved in an outing and someone exposed me way back in the day. But I wanted to come and share that today because I really want to talk about how that situation that happened in 2005 is now affecting me 20 years later. So now, I don't want to go into like the long drawn out details and stuff like that, but in college, that's when I first started talking to guys. And there was a guy that I knew who liked me, and so I used that to my advantage. I knew he had a car, and I knew he would take me places and stuff like that. So I used him to drive his car, and I used him to take me places and buy me stuff to eat and things like that. And so, I knew what came along with that. Now, I just thought we was having fun and all of that, whatever, whatever. So a couple months go by, and we're like, messing around on the low. And so one day he had asked me like, hey, do you want to be my boyfriend? And I was like, hell no. Like, are you kidding me? Mind you, this is 2005. I'm on the campus of a HBCU. Like, I'm like a popular person on this small ass campus. So it was just like, no, that wasn't something that came into my head. And I was just like, oh yeah, like, let me go ahead and do that. So, I said no. And that no was the start of it all. So he used to hang out with these two girls, and the two girls, they were very mixy, and they, knew a lot of the people on the track team and things like that. Like, so he told them the secret. They then went and told the track team. Now, mind you, I had just quit the track team, but I was still staying in the track dorm. So yeah, I was still staying in track dorm. So I was walking through. It was homecoming weekend, and it was like a couple. This was now the weekend. So I had walked through the track dorm because I was trying to find my friends so we can go drinking, da da da, all the homecoming activities, HBCU, you know what it is. So I'm walking through, and somebody's like, "Oh my God, Mush, I have to tell you something." And then someone I know was like, "No, not here." And so I'm like, "Okay, like what's going on?" I'm thinking somebody wants to fight me, da 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 da. So they take me to the staircase. Now it's like several people from the track team, including some people that like were my friends. So they were like, hey, there's a rumor going around that you're talking to such and such, da 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 da. Like he's telling everybody that, da 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 da. So like I instantly like just blacked out and like ran to my room. So in my room I had like this knife. And honestly, y'all, like at that time, I was just like, because he know how much I told him, I'm like, I value my privacy. I value my privacy. And he was just like, okay, cool, 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 cool. And then like, because I told him no, he then betrayed me and went and told whatever. Yeah, I went to go get my knife and I called him. I said, yo, did you tell those girls what I said? And he was like, no, I didn't tell nobody. I'm like, yes, you did. I said, because the school knows. And so mind you, come to find out, later in the story, I found out that people knew about this for like 2 weeks, including my friends. Um, they knew about it for 2 weeks, and then here I am just walking around campus, just thinking everything like is cool and copacetic. But like I noticed that there were different stares, but I mean I didn't really care because people always stared at me, whatever, whatever. And so yeah, I called him. I said, "Yo, did you tell anybody?" He was like, "No." I said, "Bro, don't go to that pep rally." I said, "Don't go to that pep rally today." I said, "Because I have my knife and I'm going to stab you." Now, mind you, in hindsight, guys, that's probably not the best, the best thing, but we have to really talk about it being 2005 and it being like, public embarrassment, that type of thing. And on that campus, like when I got to Lincoln, it was what, 2,000 students. And, so it wasn't that many people. I was the president of the fashion club. I was on the track team, which was like Greek because at that time we didn't have no real Greeks on campus because they had got suspended. So it was just like here I am, like this guy who everybody knows, and like the secret has been out about me, and I'm trying to do whatever damage control I'm thinking I'm doing as a 20-year-old. So it's just like and at that point I really wanted to drop out of school, and so when I told him don't go to that pep rally, y'all, I went to the pep rally and walked in that big ass gym. Why was he the first person I saw? He was the first person I saw in the bleachers. It was like a Where's Waldo, but it was like literally right there. So he runs out, da 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 da. So, after that, I really realized that people stopped fucking with me. Like, I mean, people who chopped it up with me daily, every day for years, because at this point I was a senior, he was a freshman. Um, which also now, thinking now that I just said that, like, boy, what was you doing? Um, And so, yeah, everyone knew. And it's just like people just stopped talking to me. But like I had to continue to keep walking around and keep my head held high because I still had a whole nother semester left. And so this is my last semester. And so I just, as what I learned in my early stages, I'm going to blank it out and move forward. So that whole thing goes down. I end up, not really. Did cut off some of my friends at that time, but initially we started speaking again, which was another mistake on my part. Um, but that whole thing happened at school, and like I was able to get through. And although like it didn't really seem like it was a big deal, I knew personally that that was going to have an effect on like how people receive me because it's just like damn, you spoke to me on Monday but you found this out on Tuesday and now you're not talking to me on Saturday. I mean, just straight walking right past me, little giggles when I walk by, and just it was just a whole bunch of oh god, the girls that I used to date, like that was a whole nightmare, and them finding out and cursing me out, yo, it was just real messy. So then I graduated and life went on. Now mind you, I have never been on a DL. I've never claimed to be on the DL. Now, was I discreet? Yes. Like, because it's just like you don't want people to know your business. And, for the gays who were around back in the early 2000s, it's just like, bruh, it was still a safety thing. Like, a lot of people think that, oh, they're just trying to, be on the down low because they don't, they're afraid or they're ashamed of their sexuality and all that. Like, sure, that may be a portion of people, but a lot of times it's just like, bro, like ain't nobody want to answer all the questions about their sex life. And so it's just like, I went about it and I went moved on and moved past it. Maybe 3 years later, 4 years later, I'm now 3 years out of school, 3 years past the situation. I'm now, in New York City where I'm like having like a dating life and things like that. So like it's like the outing wasn't prominent in my head. So I get a call one day from one of my homeboys. He was like, "Yo, what's up? Like, you coming to such and such's birthday party?" So I was like, "Yeah, like where they having a party at?" Like, "Oh, in the city." So I was like, "Okay, cool, cool, cool." They're like, "Yeah, their boyfriend's throwing it for them." I'm like, "Oh shit, like who's the boyfriend?" I was like, "I didn't even know they had." He's like, "Yeah, like this guy that he's been talking to." Now, mind you, guys, no, I'm coming back to that. So you know what? I get dressed. I get dressed and I go to get dressed, go to the party. It was at a hotel in the city on like 20 something street. And so I remember walking in and seeing my friends, like the group of friends, it was like maybe five friends, and I saw them. We were all kind of standing in like a semicircle. So like I'm standing there, and maybe like 5 minutes after I walked in, like they kind of lowered the lights because they were gonna bring out the cake. So like homeboy's bringing out the cake, and like mind you, I'm standing next to the birthday boy, like because we're all standing in the semicircle, and the birthday boy was kind of in the middle. So like I'm just standing there, and so like someone's coming out with the cake, like but it's blocking their face, so I can't see it. So I just see the cake and like candles, and I'm just like do 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 do. So he walks over, y'all. He puts that cake down on a table. Why is it the dude who outed me? This is now my friend's new boyfriend. So that brought up so many memories because at that point I knew that my friend had a new little situation going on, but they were calling him a different name. So it's just like when I finally saw who it was, y'all, it just brought back so many memories and so much feelings because, like I said, I block and move on. And so that kind of drudged up more feelings and stuff like that. But what I wanted to come on here today and say is this is the main reason why I have issues with putting out my business. Like, with me, I feel like people expect so much from me. Like when I was a kid, like all the parents thought I was responsible. And so, like, I don't know what that was about me or how I looked, but I always looked like I was the responsible one. So parents would always be like, hey, make sure that everybody isn't doing this and make sure everybody isn't doing this. And then so like me knowing that they just told me that, I'm now with friends or cousins and things like that and be like, hey, don't do that. Hey, don't do that. And then that became, oh, now Mush acts like he try to know everything. Oh, Mush always try to act like he's somebody's dad. Oh, Mush try to act like. And honestly, I was probably the most reckless kid out the group, trying to have fun, climbing fences, like going into places that we shouldn't even be in. Like that was me as a kid, but like they always thought I was a responsible one. So I use that as like a method, like some stealth method to not be here in these streets. Like I don't need I don't want to be questioned about who I'm talking to, where I'm going, what I'm doing. So I always made sure that I put my life inside this little bubble that I can enjoy and nobody can really get to. But with the whole outing thing and the whole exposure, like that was like my first real like experience with betrayal, because it was just like, I thought that me and homeboy had like a little trust thing that we had going on because like we were both on this campus. It was mad small, da 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 da. And so I thought that he wouldn't do that to me. And honestly, that is a mindset that I've dragged 20 years later into my life now. It's just like I when I'm betrayed, I just never expect that from people because it's just like one of my favorite phrases is like, how did we get here? Like, how do we even get here? Like, it's just like, and you know what, for me, because, and then also another pattern that was created from the situation is that, like, I realized that I now have an issue with people not telling me pertinent information. If it has something to do with me, then you need to tell me, because it's just like I need to be able to do what I need to do in order to fix it, like, or in order to fix it, whatever the fix is in my eyes. And it just feels like people just be like, oh, they don't say nothing. Time goes on, and then be like, oh, Mush, by the way, I heard this, and I'm sitting there like, what? And you know what? And also like I'm realizing that it created like a level of delusion as far as like me and my relationships with people and how I perceive it and how it actually really is, because it's just like I'm the type of person, I'm gonna meet you where you're at. So it's just like if you steal, like, okay, cool, like you can still come over, but I just will hide my stuff. Like if you're a liar, then I'm just never gonna like take anything you say like by heart. Like if you just flake out on plans, I'm not gonna invite you nowhere, but we can still be friends. And like occasionally when you don't want to flake, like we can get up and go. Like that's just the type of person I am. And I feel like me doing that has allowed people to stomp all over me and my fucking who I am. And so it's just like, I have traveled for birthdays and set up parties and done this and done that for people. And like literally when they get upset at me, it is death. I mean, from the boy out of me to, people getting mad at me and then calling me all types of faggots and like, mind you never talked like this before, and people always knew you were gay. You've always been hiding it. Like, once again, back to what I always stated, I never said that I was on a DL. I never try to hide it. Like, I've been the most obvious download person ever. Like, I've literally been clocked at clubs. I was clocked at my first club at 19. Someone knew me there. I drove an hour away from home, walked into the gay club, and someone called my real name. Who the hell knows me all the way out here? But they did. Went to Atlanta my first time. Name called. Someone knows me. Standing outside the club. Ex girlfriend, best friend. Drive by. See me. Did I stop going to the club? No. I was right back there next week. And like I said, it was never something that was like a shame for me. Like, it was just a part of my life that is just like, it's a part of my sex life. My sex life is that I just am into that. So it's just like, when we talk about the whole gay and straight thing, and I think I mentioned this in my last video, it's just like when we talk about the thing of sex and like what gay is being, like, it's just like gay for me is men on men. Like, it don't like mean feelings, it don't mean like I'm soft, like I've played sports, I grew up with a dad, like all those things that you hear, like oh, he should have been raised by a dad. Like, y'all sound dumb as shit. Y'all sound dumb as shit. But that story is something that like I share to this day with my friends, especially like a lot of my younger gay friends, because it's just like, bro, let me tell you something. They're gonna try you in this life. They're gonna try you in this life. But like one thing about me is like I'm always gonna keep my head held high. And so even after that outing my senior year, like I made sure I showed up to every homecoming after that. Like I think I went to 9 homecomings straight after that because I just wanted to show face and I just wanted to be like, nah, like y'all motherfuckers aren't gonna run me away from this school. Like I made a name for myself here, and regardless if I'm fucking a nigga or a girl, it like that has nothing to do with the character of who I am and like what I've built and what I've done in my time there. So that's just always my it's just a story that sticks with me for a long time. And like now at 41, like I'm starting to, because like I said, I block it and move on. I'm starting to now unblock it and like trying to really process like how that shit is affecting me now. And it's just like people have put a lot of pressure on me and they still do to this day. Like it's just like I can't do nothing simple. I can't. Like, it's just like, but then when I do the complex things, I get no fucking credit. Like, it's just like for this network, like people just like, oh, like, that's so dope. You're so dope. You're doing that. But it's like, if we break down the actual thing that I'm fucking doing, bro, I produced 20 shows and I still get no credit for that. But, you want to see me outside the gay club, y'all will spread and share that information like fucking crazy. But when it comes to me and when I had my blog, when I had my clothing line, network, now my relationship, like y'all love to have stuff to say about that. And it's just like, and that's probably going to be one of my future stories down the line, but it's just like, that level of betrayal in 2005 was rough. But then 20 years later, for another betrayal type situation to happen with friends, it's kind of like, I was a person with so many friends but who felt like he had no friends, which is why I had to be my first and only friend. Like, people always hate me first and then be like, oh, damn, I didn't know you were so cool. Like, this is a pattern that I have seen my whole life. And I just be like, what did I do to you? What do I be doing to people that just make you so upset? I just be over here minding my business, trying to do my art. Like, I'm over here working on a new hat. Like, it's just like, I'm over here editing my work. I'm just trying to be out here and be great. And it's just like sometimes I just feel like people just don't respect that at all. But they quick to be like, oh, Mush is this and Mush is that. But Mush just be chilling. I be chilling and I be going home. I be chilling, I be going home. I even, you know what? And mind you, I will say like maybe you didn't like my tone on things. But even in the past 2 years, I feel like I've just stopped giving my unwarranted opinion on things because I realized like people can't handle that shit. So don't give it. Don't give it. But the one that I would close this out by saying, like, sometimes I just really want to be noticed for my work and not for the bullshit that comes attached to me. It's just like it's always been got out of college. When you gonna go get a real job? When you gonna get a girlfriend? When you gonna go get a boyfriend? When you gonna do this and then this and this and this and this. But when it comes to when I want to talk about my art, when I want to talk about my creativity, like nobody wants to have that conversation. And so I just sit here in my head and just, but yeah, that's what I wanted to share today. If you ever been in a situation where somebody has exposed a secret about you, like let me know in the comments, because it's just like that was rough 20 years ago. And even thinking back now, like, the world we live in today, like, you may hear this story and think like, oh well, that doesn't sound too bad. But in your 2025 brain, like you're hearing this, but like if you were even old enough or born, for what 2005 was like, it was rough, but it was a fun era. It was a fun era, and I've like, the life that I've lived because of what happened to that, like it has definitely closed me off a whole lot to a whole lot of people and a whole lot of opportunities. And also, that me going into my turtle shell because of what happened really caused more issues with more dates down the line. That was something similar to where it was just like I gave them an answer that they didn't like, and so they took it to the next level, though, which had me dealing with police, had me dealing with court, and having to go to court and bring documents. It was nuts. It was nuts. And these are some of the stories that a lot of people don't know about, because I was going through a lot of this shit by myself, and it was only one or two friends um that I had. But right now in this era that I'm in an era of shedding people and just shedding routines and things like that. And like honestly, like I was down to like maybe two friends, and one of them recently blocked me. So yeah. Anywho, let's turn off this camera. I am Mush King. This is my story to tell. Be sure to tell your story, because you never know who's listening. Because guess what? Everybody got a story to tell. And in 2005, I wanted to share it, but it wasn't the time.